The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floor. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from the gas-based Luminians floating in containment spheres to the massive rock-like stone kind who required reinforced platforms. At the center of it all, High Chancellor Vexthar called the assembly to order with a sharp strike of his resonant staff. Ambassador Chen sat in the human section, her hands folded calmly on the table before her. She had been Earth's representative for 5 years now, and in that time she had grown used to the looks. The other species watched humans with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed contempt. To them, humanity was an oddity. A species that had reached the stars but showed no interest in conquest. A people who preferred trade agreements over territory disputes. "We now address the matter of the Sol system," Vexthar announced, his 3 eyes scanning the assembly. "The Jakari Empire has brought forth a proposal." Commander Ralketh rose from his seat, his blue-scaled form towering over most other delegates. The Jakari were warriors by nature, their entire civilization built on military strength and expansion. They had conquered 12 species before joining the Council, and their appetite for dominance had never truly been satisfied. "Esteemed members," Ralketh began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute confidence, "for too long we have observed the humans with patience. We welcomed them to our council 3 decades ago, believing they would eventually show their true nature. Instead, they continue their charade of weakness." Chen felt her jaw tighten, but she remained silent. She had learned that interrupting a Jakari in mid-speech was considered a grave insult. "The humans possess only 300 defensive vessels," Ralketh continued, activating a holographic display that showed Earth's registered fleet. "They have no conquests, no tributary systems, no military stations beyond their own solar boundary. They spend more resources on art and philosophy than on weapons development. This is not the behavior of a species worthy of council membership. This is the behavior of prey." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species nodded in agreement. Others, like the cautious Etherians, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "The Jakari Empire proposes a compliance action," Ralketh declared. "We will demonstrate to the humans what it means to exist in a galaxy of strength. We will strike their orbital facilities, destroy their pathetic defense fleet, and bring them into proper tributary status under Jakari protection. They will learn to contribute to galactic strength, or they will learn the cost of weakness." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates shouted their support, seeing an opportunity to finally put the strange humans in their proper place. Others voiced concerns, though their objections seemed rooted more in protocol than genuine worry. Chen stood slowly, waiting for the noise to die down. When Vexthar acknowledged her, she stepped forward into the speaking circle. "Honorable Chancellor, esteemed delegates," she began, her voice steady despite the hostility she felt radiating from certain sections of the chamber. "The Jakari commander mistakes our choices for our capabilities. Earth chooses peace not because we cannot fight, but because we understand the true cost of war." Ralketh laughed, a harsh barking sound that echoed through the chamber, empty words from a species of farmers and artists. "You understand nothing of strength." Chen looked directly at the Jakari commander. "My people have a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We speak softly, Commander. We always have, but that does not mean we are unarmed." "Then show us these mythical weapons," Ralketh challenged. "Display your mighty fleet for the Council to see." "Why would we?" Chen replied calmly. "We have no desire to threaten anyone. We came to the stars seeking friends, not enemies. We built defenses sufficient to protect our home, nothing more. We saw no need to brandish our capabilities like a credential." "Because you have none to brandish," Ralketh sneered. "The Council has monitored your system for decades. We know everything about your primitive technology, your weak ships, your fragmented governments. You barely achieved unity among your own kind. You are children playing at diplomacy." Chen felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. This was going worse than she had feared. The Jakari had clearly made up their minds before this session even began. This was not a debate. It was a formality before an act of war. "I must warn the Council," Chen said, her voice taking on a harder edge. "An attack on Earth will be met with a response. We have always preferred peace, but we are not defenseless. Please, I am begging you to reconsider this course of action." Vexthar struck his resonant staff again. "The matter will be put to a vote. All those in favor of authorizing the Jakari compliance action against the Sol system. Chen watched as section after section lit up in agreement. 31 species voted in favor. Only 12 voted against. Mostly smaller civilizations that had their own reasons to fear the Jakari. 4 abstained. The motion passes, Vexthar declared. The Jakari Empire is authorized to proceed with compliance action against the human homeworld. Ambassador Chen, you have 24 hours to evacuate your delegation from council space. Chen gathered her materials slowly, her hands perfectly steady despite the chaos she knew was coming. As she walked toward the exit, she passed by Etherian Ambassador Lyra, who whispered urgently, "Warn them. Whatever your people have, they should prepare it now." "They already know," Chen replied quietly. "We have been monitoring this session. My government expected this outcome." She made her way to her ship, a modest diplomatic vessel that looked entirely unremarkable. As she settled into the pilot's seat and initiated departure procedures, she opened a secure channel to Earth. "This is Ambassador Chen. The vote has concluded." "They are coming." The response was immediate. "Understood. Contingency Omega is now active. Come home, Ambassador. You will want to be here for what happens next." As her ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, Chen allowed herself a moment of sadness. The Council had no idea what they had just authorized. The Zakari thought they understood humanity. They had studied Earth's history, seen the wars and conflicts that had plagued the planet for millennia. But they had made a critical error in their analysis. They assumed humanity's violence was primitive and chaotic. They did not understand that humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare, learning from every mistake, every defeat, every victory. They did not realize that Earth's peaceful exterior was not weakness, but a conscious choice made by a species that knew exactly what horrors war could bring. The Jakari fleet was already assembling at the edge of their territory. 300 warships, the largest fleet they had deployed in 2 centuries. They expected an easy victory, a quick demonstration of power that would bring humanity to heel. They were about to learn a lesson that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Earth had remained peaceful because they had never been given a reason to show their true strength. That was about to change. The Jakari fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, like a swarm of metal locusts. 300 warships arranged themselves in attack formation, their weapons charging, their sensors scanning the primitive defenses they expected to find. Commander Ralketh stood on the bridge of his flagship, the dominant Fang, and smiled with satisfaction. "Scan all orbital installations," he ordered. "Target anything with a power signature above basic civilian levels." His tactical officer worked quickly, highlighting targets on the main display. "Multiple stations detected, Commander. Large civilian populations, mining facilities on the moon, several small patrol vessels approaching our position." "Civilian populations?" Ralketh waved dismissively. They should have considered that before their ambassador insulted the Council with her empty threats. "Open fire on all military targets. Disable the stations. Show them what happens to species that refuse to know their place." The first missiles streaked across the void, followed by particle beams and kinetic projectiles. The human patrol vessels tried to intercept, their small weapons firing uselessly against Jakari shields. Within minutes, all 12 patrol ships were destroyed. Then the stations began to die. Europa Research Station was hit first. The mining facility housed 3,000 scientists and their families. The Jakari missiles punched through the habitat modules and the station broke apart in silence, venting atmosphere and bodies into the frozen void. Lunar Base Armstrong suffered next. The oldest permanent human settlement off Earth, home to 15,000 people. The bombardment was precise and devastating. Power generators exploded. Life support failed. Survivors scrambled for emergency shelters that would only buy them hours. Mars Orbital Platform 3, Venus Cloud Station, the Jupiter Fuel Depot. One by one, humanity's orbital infrastructure shattered under the Jakari assault. Within the first hour, 17,000 humans were dead or dying. On Earth, every screen, every communication device, every emergency system broadcast the same images. People watched their family members die in space. They watched stations they had built with decades of effort reduced to glowing debris. They watched, and something ancient and terrible stirred in the human collective consciousness. In Geneva, The Emergency World Council convened in a bunker 3 kilometers below the surface. President Sarah Martinez of the Americas spoke first, her voice cold and flat. "How many?" 17,000 confirmed dead, reported General Kumar. "Another 30,000 trapped in damaged stations. They are giving us 24 hours to surrender, or they will target Earth directly." Premier Joe of the Asian Alliance slammed his fist on the table. "They murdered our children. They came to our home and killed our families. And they expect us to surrender?" Chancellor Adeyemi of the African Union looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders. Every continent, every nation, every group that had spent centuries fighting each other. Now they all wore the same expression. Not fear, not panic. "Something far more dangerous. We need to vote," she said quietly. "Contingency Omega requires unanimous approval from all permanent members. We all know what it means. Once we activate it, there is no going back. The galaxy will see what we truly are." One by one, the votes came in. Americas, yes. Asian Alliance, yes. European Federation, yes. African Union, yes. Oceanic Coalition, yes. South American Confederation, yes, unanimous, Martinez said. "General Kumar, activate Contingency Omega. Wake up the defense sphere." Kumar entered the authorization codes, his hands steady despite the magnitude of what he was doing. Authorization confirmed. Sending activation signals now. Admiral Okonkwo has command. In deep space far beyond the orbit of Pluto, something stirred. Hidden bases built into dark asteroids powered up. Stealth ships that had drifted dormant for decades ignited their reactors. On the far side of the moon, massive blast doors opened in craters that appeared empty to any scanner. In the Kuiper Belt, weapon platforms that looked like ordinary ice chunks began moving into position. Admiral Sarah Okonkwo sat in the command center of Fortress Prime, a facility hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid that officially did not exist. Around her, thousands of military personnel worked at their stations. These were not the public face of Earth's defense force. These were the people who had spent their entire careers preparing for the worst-case scenario. Status report. Okonkwo ordered. "All stealth vessels responding to activation codes," reported her tactical officer. "Defense Grid Alpha through Zeta coming online. Weapon platforms charging. Estimate 90 minutes until full operational capability." And the Jakari fleet? Still in outer system. They appear to be celebrating their easy victory. They have made no attempt to pursue Ambassador Chen's ship or scout beyond their current position. Okonkwo allowed herself a cold smile. They think they have won already. They have no idea that every patrol ship they destroyed was unmanned. Every station defense weapon they encountered was 30 years out of date. We showed them exactly what we wanted them to see. Her communications officer looked up. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the Jakari flagship. It is being broadcast across all channels. Put it through." Commander Ralketh's face appeared on the screen, his expression smug with victory. "Humans of Earth, you have witnessed the price of defiance. Your pathetic defenses have been swept aside. Your stations lie in ruins. You have 24 hours to transmit your unconditional surrender. If you refuse, we will begin bombardment of your planet's surface. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Okonkwo stood slowly, smoothing her uniform. "Open a channel. All frequencies. I want every ship in this system to hear this. I want the Galactic Council to hear this. I want the entire galaxy to know what happens next." Her crew worked quickly. Within moments, every receiver in the Sol system picked up her signal. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo, commander of Earth's Defense Sphere Initiative. To the Jakari fleet. You attacked our civilian stations. You killed our children, our scientists, our families. You came to our home and murdered 17,000 innocent people. You expected us to cower. You expected us to surrender. You made a mistake," she paused, letting her words sink in. "For the past 70 years, Earth has maintained a public defense force that was deliberately weak. We wanted to join the galactic community peacefully. We hoped we would never need to reveal what we have been building in the shadows. But you have forced our hand." Okonkwo's voice hardened. "You studied our history and thought you understood us. You saw our wars and believed we were primitive. But you missed the lesson. Humans have spent 10,000 years learning how to kill each other efficiently. We became very, very good at it. Then we learned to stop. We chose peace. But we never forgot how to fight." She leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. "You have 24 hours to leave this system. Take your dead and go. If you are still here when my fleet arrives, you will discover exactly why Earth remained peaceful. Not because we could not make war, Because we understood its consequences better than any species in the galaxy. The transmission ended. Okonkwo turned to her tactical officer. Deploy the first wave. I want them to see what is coming. Show them our shadows before they meet our swords. Across the Sol system, stealth vessels dropped their cloaking fields. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of ships appeared on every scanner. Each one was larger, faster, and more heavily armed than anything the Jakari had encountered. They moved with perfect coordination, closing in on the enemy fleet from every direction. Commander Ralketh stared at his tactical display in disbelief. This is impossible. Where did they come from? Our intelligence report said they had nothing like this. His tactical officer's voice shook. Commander, the energy signatures on those ships, the weapon systems, they are reading as military-grade technology, but the designs are completely unknown. We have no countermeasures in our database. Ralketh felt the first cold touch of fear. Get me a channel to the Council now. But Earth's jammers were already active. The Jakari fleet was alone, cut off, surrounded by an enemy they had awakened. The battle began at 0400 hours Earth Standard Time. The Jakari fleet held formation, their shields at maximum power, weapons tracking the human vessels that surrounded them like wolves circling prey. Commander Ralketh had fought in 37 engagements across his military career. He had defeated enemies with superior numbers and better positioning, but as he watched the tactical display, something felt wrong. Why are they not attacking? His first officer asked nervously. They have us surrounded. They have the numbers advantage. What are they waiting for? Ralketh studied the human formation. The ships moved with disturbing precision, maintaining exact distances from each other, creating overlapping fields of fire that left no gaps. This was not the behavior of an inexperienced military. This was the work of people who had practiced warfare until it became an art form. They want us to make the first move, Ralketh realized. They want to see our capabilities before they commit. He straightened in his command chair. All ships open fire. Target the nearest human vessels. Show them that the Jakari do not fear their tricks. The Jakari fleet erupted with firepower. Particle beams, missiles, kinetic rounds, and plasma torpedoes filled the void between the two forces. It was enough destructive energy to vaporize a small moon. The human ships did not dodge. They did not scatter. They simply activated countermeasures that made Ralketh's blood run cold. Point defense systems unlike anything in the galactic database sprang to life. Tiny drones launched by the thousands, intercepting missiles with impossible accuracy. Energy shields flickered into existence only where needed, conserving power while deflecting beams at precise angles. Kinetic rounds were caught by localized gravity fields that slowed them to harmless velocities. Not a single human ship was destroyed. Not one was even damaged. Impossible, Ralketh whispered. No species has technology like this. Admiral Okonkwo watched the Jakari attack from the bridge of her flagship, the UESS Indomitable. Around her, the tactical crew worked in calm efficiency, calling out readings and adjusting defensive parameters. Jakari weapon systems fully cataloged, reported the tactical AI. Countermeasures optimized. All incoming fire neutralized with 98.3% efficiency. Thank you, Athena, Okonkwo said to the artificial intelligence. Now show them what we brought to this fight. Activate Weapon System Delta. Limited deployment. I want them to understand what they are facing. Understood, Admiral. Deploying gravity lances. 20 human ships broke formation, moving forward. They did not fire conventional weapons. Instead, focused beams of gravitational force lanced out across space. When they struck Jakari vessels, the results were devastating. Shields meant to deflect energy, and solid projectiles had no defense against gravity itself. Ship hulls crumpled inward like paper crushed in a fist. Hulls designed to withstand incredible punishment folded and compressed under impossible forces. 15 Jakari warships were reduced to twisted wrecks in 30 seconds. Second wave, Okonkwo ordered. Railgun batteries. Another group of human vessels opened fire with weapons that accelerated solid projectiles to a fraction of light speed. The kinetic energy was so enormous that when they struck their targets, the Jakari shields simply ceased to exist, overloaded in microseconds. The projectiles punched through armor like tissue paper, traveling completely through ships from bow to stern. 20 more Jakari vessels went dark. Commander Ralketh grabbed the arms of his command chair as the dominant fang shuddered from a near miss. Return fire. All weapons, focus fire on their flagship. The Jakari fleet concentrated their remaining firepower on the Indomitable. The human vessel took the full brunt of the assault, and for a moment, Ralketh thought they had succeeded. Then the smoke cleared. The Indomitable hung in space completely undamaged. Its shields had not even flickered. How? Ralketh demanded of his science officer. How are their shields so strong? Commander, I do not think those are shields in any conventional sense. The energy readings suggest they are manipulating space-time itself around their ships. They are not blocking our weapons. They are redirecting them into folded dimensions. This is technology we did not know was possible. Okonkwo opened a channel to the Jakari flagship. Commander Ralketh, you are outmatched. You came to our system believing we were weak, because we chose not to display our strength. You made assumptions based on incomplete data. That was your first mistake. Your second was murdering our civilians. On the screen, Ralketh's face showed the first signs of real fear. You cannot defeat the entire Zakari Empire. We have thousands of ships, dozens of worlds. Even if you destroy this fleet, more will come. I know, Okonkwo replied calmly. We have been monitoring your communications networks for 3 decades. We know the exact location of every military installation, every shipyard, every weapons platform in Zakari space. We know your defense protocols, your military response times, and the names of your fleet commanders. While you were ignoring us, we were studying you. She leaned forward. I'm going to tell you something that should terrify you, Commander. Everything you have seen so far represents approximately 20% of Earth's actual military capability. The weapons we have used are our oldest designs, the ones we were willing to reveal. The truly advanced systems are still hidden. We have weapons your species has not even theorized about. We have strategies built on 10,000 years of warfare experience. We are prepared for every possible scenario, including fighting the entire Galactic Council if necessary. Ralketh swallowed hard. What do you want? I want you to leave this system. But first I want you to understand something. Okonkwo's voice took on a hard edge. Earth could have been a conqueror. With our technology and our strategic thinking, we could have built an empire that spanned the galaxy. We chose not to. We chose peace. We approached the galactic community with open hands, seeking friendship and cooperation. Do you know why? She did not wait for an answer. Because we remember what we did to ourselves. We spent millennia fighting wars that nearly destroyed our entire species. We developed weapons that could end all life on our planet. We came within minutes of total annihilation more than once. We learned through terrible cost that peace is precious, that life is sacred, that cooperation builds more than conquest ever could. So we built a defense force that could protect us, and then we hid it. We hoped we would never need it. We hoped that other species would choose wisdom over aggression. But you did not give us that choice. Okonkwo stood. You will return to your empire with the remnants of this fleet. You will tell your leaders exactly what you found here. You will explain that attacking Earth was the greatest mistake your civilization has ever made. And then you will watch as we come to your territory. Not as conquerors, but as judges. You cannot invade Zakari space, Ralketh protested. The Galactic Council will never allow it. The Council authorized your attack on our civilians, Okonkwo said coldly. They voted to allow you to murder 17,000 innocent people. As far as I am concerned, the Council's authority over Earth ended the moment they made that decision. We are no longer asking for permission. She gestured to her tactical officer. Disable the remaining Jakari vessels. Target weapons and engines only. Let them drift while they think about their choices. Then prepare the fleet. We are going to Zakari space. The human ships moved with surgical precision, crippling the remaining Zakari warships without destroying them. Within an hour, Commander Ralketh's mighty fleet was helpless, drifting in the outer Sol system, surrounded by human vessels that waited like patient predators. On Earth, people watched the battle through live feeds. They saw their military, the one that had existed in secret for generations, defending their home with overwhelming efficiency. They saw technology that seemed like magic, strategies that bordered on precognition, and a level of military competence that stunned even the most optimistic analysts. But they also saw restraint. Every human strike was calculated to disable, not destroy. Every tactic was designed to minimize casualties, even among the enemy. The humans fought with the cold precision of people who understood exactly what they were doing and exactly what it would cost. In the council chambers across the galaxy, Delegates watched the same feeds in growing horror. They had authorized what they thought would be a simple compliance action. Instead, they had awakened something they did not understand. A species that combined technological superiority with strategic brilliance and a moral framework that somehow made them more dangerous than simple conquerors. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson. Peace was not the same as weakness. And humanity had been patient long enough. The human fleet arrived at the edge of Jakari space 6 days after the battle in the Sol system. 150 ships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering, dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying the tactical display that showed the Jakari Empire's defensive positions. "Scan complete," reported her tactical officer. "Jakari military has mobilized their reserve fleets. We are detecting approximately 800 warships spread across their territory. They have established defensive perimeters around all major worlds." 800 ships, Okonkwo mused. They learned nothing from our first encounter. They still think this is about numbers. She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel to all Jakari military frequencies. I want every ship, every commander, every soldier in their empire to hear this." The channel opened. Okonkwo spoke clearly and without emotion. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of Earth's Defense Fleet. 6 days ago, your military attacked our home system. You destroyed civilian stations. You murdered 17,000 innocent people, including children. Your commander claimed you were teaching us about strength. Today we are going to teach you about consequences." She paused, letting her words echo across Jakari space. "We are not here as conquerors. We are not here to claim your worlds or enslave your people. We are here to dismantle your military capability so that you can never threaten another peaceful species again. Every military installation, every warship, every weapons platform will be eliminated. Your civilians will not be harmed. Your worlds will remain yours, but your ability to project violence will end today." On the Jakari homeworld, Supreme Commander Zalkreth listened to the human admiral's words with cold fury. He was a veteran of 60 years of military service, architect of the conquests that had built the Jakari Empire. He had faced enemies before and he had crushed them all. "Deploy all available fleets," he ordered. "Send every ship we have. I want that human fleet destroyed. Show them that the Jakari do not bow to threats." But as his military mobilized, something unexpected happened. 36 species that had suffered under Jakari aggression suddenly decided to make their move. Seeing the humans challenge the Jakari Empire, they launched their own rebellions. Jakari supply lines were attacked. Colonial garrisons found themselves besieged. The empire that had been held together by fear began to fracture. Admiral Okonkwo watched this unfold on her strategic display. The Jakari built their power on intimidation. Remove the fear and their empire collapses. Tactical, begin the operation. Remember, military targets only. If you have any doubt about a target containing civilians, do not fire. The human fleet split into smaller task forces, each one assigned to a specific Jakari military installation. They moved through Jakari space like ghosts, appearing without warning, striking with precision, and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. The first target was Orbital Fortress Talkesh, the largest military station in Jakari territory. Home to 3,000 military personnel and enough firepower to level a planet, it was considered impregnable. The human task force arrived, deployed their gravity lances, and reduced the fortress to scrap in 45 minutes. Every Jakari soldier survived, evacuated in escape pods that the humans carefully avoided targeting. Military Shipyard Prime, where the Jakari built their most advanced vessels, was next. The humans did not destroy it. Instead, they deployed specialized drones that systematically dismantled every weapon system, every shield generator, every military component. They left the basic structure intact, but transformed a military facility into empty metal scaffolding. Weapons platform station after station went dark as human ships methodically eliminated Jakari military infrastructure. The pattern was always the same. Precise strikes on military hardware, complete avoidance of civilian casualties, and overwhelming tactical superiority that made resistance futile. Supreme Commander Zalkreth watched his military crumble and felt something he had never experienced before: helplessness. Every fleet he sent was outmaneuvered. Every defensive position was bypassed or neutralized. The humans fought with a level of coordination and efficiency that suggested every move had been planned years in advance. "Get me a channel to the human flagship," he ordered. "We need to negotiate." Admiral Okonkwo accepted the communication request. The Jakari commander's face appeared on her screen, his expression showing the strain of watching his life's work dismantled in days. "You have made your point, Admiral," Zalkreth said, his voice carefully controlled. "The Jakari acknowledge your military superiority. What are your terms for ceasing this assault?" "Unconditional surrender of all military forces," Okonkwo replied immediately. "Complete disarmament of your fleet. Transfer of all military leadership to an international tribunal to face charges for the massacre in the Sol system. The Jakari Empire will be reorganized under civilian government with oversight from neutral parties." Zalkreth's face flushed with anger. "You ask us to destroy ourselves. The Jakari are warriors. We will never surrender our military heritage." "Then you will watch it be dismantled piece by piece," Okonkwo said flatly. "You have 48 hours to comply. After that, we begin targeting your ship production facilities, your weapons research centers, and your military academies. We will not harm your people, but we will ensure you can never again threaten anyone." The channel closed. Zalkreth sat in his command center, surrounded by his senior officers, and for the first time in his career, he had no strategy, no brilliant tactical solution. The humans had outthought him at every turn. "We could deploy the biological weapon," suggested his weapons officer quietly, "the one we have been developing for extreme scenarios. If we cannot defeat them militarily, we can at least ensure they pay a terrible price." Zalkreth considered this for a long moment. The weapon was a horror, an engineered plague that could devastate a planet's ecosystem. They had developed it as a final deterrent, something so terrible that no enemy would dare push them too far. Perhaps if the humans knew the cost of their aggression, they would back down. "Prepare the weapon," Zalkreth ordered. "Target Earth. If we are to be destroyed, we will take our enemies with us." The biological weapon was loaded onto a stealth ship, one of the few vessels the humans had not yet detected. It made its way toward the Sol system, carrying death in its payload. But Earth's monitoring network, built from decades of paranoid preparation, detected the anomaly. A small ship moving on an intercept course with Earth, its trajectory suggesting hostile intent. The defense sphere responded immediately. The Jakari stealth ship never reached Earth's orbit. 3 human vessels intercepted it at the edge of the system. When they scanned the cargo and identified the biological weapon, Admiral Okonkwo's response was swift and terrible. "Secure the weapon. Identify its point of origin. Then open a channel to the Jakari command." Her voice was cold enough to freeze hydrogen. "They just crossed a line there is no coming back from." When Zalkreth's face appeared on her screen again, he saw something in the human admiral's eyes that made his blood run cold. Not anger, not rage, something far worse. Absolute resolve. "You attempted to deploy a biological weapon against Earth," Okonkwo said quietly. "Against a civilian population. Against a planet of 9 billion people. That was not an act of war. That was attempted genocide." "We were defending ourselves," Zalkreth protested. "No," Okonkwo cut him off. "You were attempting mass murder because you could not accept defeat." "There is a difference." She leaned forward. "You have 10 minutes to evacuate the Supreme Command Center on your homeworld. After that, the building and everyone in it will cease to exist." "You cannot," Zalkreth stammered. "That would be an act of war against our civilian government." "You are the civilian government," Okonkwo replied. "The Jakari military and government are one and the same. You are military leadership that attempted to commit genocide. That makes you a legitimate target under every law of warfare humanity has ever written." 10 minutes, she repeated. "I suggest you use them wisely." Zalkreth looked at his officers, saw the same fear reflected in their faces. They had pushed the humans too far, crossed a boundary they did not know existed. He gave the order to evacuate. Exactly 10 minutes later, a single human ship fired a single weapon at the Jakari Supreme Command Center. The building, a massive fortress that had stood for 300 years, simply disappeared. One moment it existed, the next there was only a perfectly circular crater where it had been. The precision was terrifying. No other structure was damaged. No civilian casualties, just the complete and total elimination of the Jakari military leadership. Across Jakari space, commanders and officers watched the broadcast in stunned silence. Their leaders, the supreme architects of their military might, had been erased with surgical precision. The message was clear: the humans could have killed everyone. They chose to kill only those responsible. Within hours, every Jakari military unit received the same transmission. Civilian administrators, people who had lived in the shadow of the military their entire lives, began broadcasting surrender orders. Without military leadership, without the infrastructure to continue fighting, and facing an enemy that had demonstrated both overwhelming power and terrifying restraint, the Jakari Empire collapsed. The war was over. It had lasted 10 days. 3 months after the war ended, Ambassador Chen stood before the reformed Galactic Council. The chamber looked different now. Gone were the rigid hierarchies and the atmosphere of barely concealed hostility. In their place was something more humble, more uncertain. The galaxy had learned that assumptions could be fatal. The Council had invited Earth to take a leadership position, a seat with authority over military matters and dispute resolution. Chen could see the calculation behind the offer. Fear mostly, mixed with pragmatic recognition that humanity had demonstrated capabilities beyond anything the galaxy had known was possible. Honored delegates, Chen began, her voice carrying through the silent chamber. Earth accepts a seat on the Reformed Council, but we do so under specific conditions. High Chancellor Vexthar, who had barely kept his position after the disaster he had authorized, gestured for her to continue. First, the Council will no longer authorize compliance actions or military interventions against member species without unanimous consent. One dissenting vote will be enough to prevent action. No species will ever again face what Earth faced, a vote that condemns them to attack by their supposed allies. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, but no one objected. They had seen what happened when Earth was pushed. Second, any military action against civilian populations will be met with immediate response from Earth. We will not ask for authorization. We will not debate in committees. We will simply act. We are making ourselves the guarantors of civilian protection across this galaxy. If you attack innocents, you will answer to us. Chen paused, letting the weight of that statement settle. Third, Earth will begin sharing our defensive technology with any species that requests it. Not our weapon systems, not our offensive capabilities, but the technology needed to protect your homes and your people. No species should be vulnerable to the kind of aggression the Zakari. I attempted. This is unprecedented, protested the representative from the Krill. Union. You are proposing to reshape the entire galactic power structure. Yes, Chen agreed simply, because the current structure failed. It created an environment where military aggression against peaceful species was not only acceptable, but encouraged. That ends now. The galaxy has a choice. Accept Earth's terms and work toward genuine peace, or reject them and face a future where we are not your partners but your wardens. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. We did not want this role. We wanted to be explorers, traders, friends. You forced us to become something else. We cannot go back to what we were before, but we can choose what we become next. The vote was unanimous. Earth's conditions were accepted. On the Zakari homeworld, life had changed dramatically. The military government was gone, replaced by a civilian council that was still learning how to govern without the threat of force. The transition had been chaotic and painful, but something unexpected was emerging from the ashes of the empire. In the capital city, a new school had opened. Among its students was a young Jakari named Keshatar, child of a mid-level military officer who had died when the humans destroyed Weapons Platform 17. Keshatar had every reason to hate the humans. Instead, she sat in a classroom taught by a human teacher named Marcus Webb. Can anyone tell me why the war ended the way it did? Webb asked his mixed class of Jakari and human students. This was part of Earth's rebuilding initiative, sending teachers and aid workers to help the Jakari transition to peaceful society. Keshatar raised her hand hesitantly. Because your military was stronger than ours. Webb nodded. That is part of it, yes, but not the whole story. Our military was stronger, but we could have used that strength very differently. We could have destroyed your worlds, enslaved your people, taken revenge for what happened in our system. Why did we not? A human student named Yuki spoke up. Because that is not who we are. We learned that violence for revenge only creates more violence. Exactly, Webb said. Humanity spent thousands of years trapped in a cycle of violence and retaliation. We almost destroyed ourselves multiple times. We learned that real strength is not just the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when not to. Your species now has the opportunity to learn that lesson without paying the terrible price we paid. Keshitar listened, and something shifted in her understanding. The humans had not come as conquerors. They had come as teachers, showing by example what was possible when power was tempered with restraint. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Okonkwo met with representatives from the Etherian Collective, one of the species that had voted against the attack on Earth. The Etherians were peaceful by nature, philosophers and scientists who had always felt uncomfortable with the Council's military posturing. "We want to thank you," said Etherian Ambassador Lyra, "not just for stopping the Jakari, but for showing the galaxy a different path. Many species were trapped in the Council's culture of military dominance. They could not object without appearing weak. You broke that pattern." Okonkwo smiled slightly. "We broke it by demonstrating that we were anything but weak. That is the unfortunate reality. Sometimes you have to prove you can fight before anyone will listen to your arguments for peace." "Will Earth maintain its military after this?" Lyra asked. "Now that the galaxy knows what you are capable of, will you keep the defense sphere active?" "Absolutely," Okonkwo replied without hesitation. "We will never again be in a position where others think they can attack us with impunity. But we will also never use that military for conquest or intimidation. It exists purely for defense for ourselves and for any species that cannot defend itself." She looked out at the stars. "We are creating something new, Ambassador. A military force that exists to prevent war rather than wage it. It goes against everything in the galactic tradition. But that tradition clearly was not working." Back on Earth, in the rebuilt Europa Research Station, scientists who had lost colleagues in the Jakari attack worked alongside Jakari scientists who had come to learn and atone. The collaboration was awkward at first, tensions running high, but gradually something resembling trust began to form. Dr. Amira Hassan, who had lost her wife in the attack, worked with a Jakari researcher named Telesh on a joint project studying Jupiter's moons. The irony was not lost on her that she was teaching the enemy how to conduct peaceful scientific research. "Why do you do this?" Telesh asked one day. "I am Jakari. My people killed your mate. Yet you teach me, work with me. I do not understand." Amira looked at the young Jakari, seeing the genuine confusion in her eyes. "Because my wife believed that knowledge should be shared. That understanding between species was the only path to lasting peace. If I let hatred guide me, her death means nothing. But if I honor her memory by doing what she believed in, then maybe something good comes from the tragedy." She pulled up an image on her screen, showing the reformed Galactic Council. "Look at that. Humans, Jakari, Etherians, Krill all working together. 3 months ago, that would have been impossible. Your people and mine paid a terrible price to learn that cooperation is better than conflict. Let us make sure that lesson sticks." In the Galactic Council chambers, a new structure was taking shape. Earth had introduced the concept of neutral observers, species with no military capability who would monitor disputes and report on violations. The Etherians volunteered for this role, using their natural diplomatic skills to mediate conflicts before they escalated. The first test came quickly. 2 species on the galactic rim, the Korthan and the Veltrix, had been feuding over resource rights to an asteroid field. In the old system, it would have escalated to military action. Now, with Etherian mediators and the knowledge that Earth would intervene if civilians were threatened, both sides agreed to arbitration. The resolution was peaceful, equitable, and binding. It was such a simple thing, yet it represented a fundamental shift in how the galaxy operated. Ambassador Chen watched this from Earth, satisfied but not complacent. She knew that fear of Earth's military had created this new peace as much as any genuine change of heart. The challenge would be maintaining it as that fear faded, as new generations forgot the lesson the Jakari had learned so painfully. "We need to be more than just the threat in the shadows," she told President Martinez in a private meeting. "We need to show the galaxy that our way works, that cooperation and mutual respect create better outcomes than domination and fear." Martinez nodded. "The technology sharing initiative is a start. We are also planning cultural exchange programs, joint scientific missions, shared space stations where multiple species can live and work together. We need to build connections that go deeper than fear." "It will take generations," Chen observed. "All the best things do," Martinez replied. 5 years later, the galaxy looked very different. The Jakari Empire had become the Jakari Republic, a peaceful nation focused on trade and cultural development. Former military commanders retrained as civil engineers, building cities instead of warships. A generation of young Zakari grew up learning that honor came from creation, not destruction. Earth's defense sphere remained active, a silent guarantee of stability. But increasingly it was not needed. Species that once settled disputes through military action now came to Earth's mediators first. The cost of aggression had become too high, and the benefits of cooperation too obvious to ignore. In the rebuilt Europa station, Keshatar, now a graduate student, worked on her research project alongside human and Etherian colleagues. She had chosen to study conflict resolution, wanting to understand how her species could ensure they never repeated the mistakes of the past. Admiral Okonkwo, now retired, gave a lecture to a class of military cadets from 7 different species at Earth's new Interstellar Defense Academy. The school taught not just military tactics, but ethics, diplomacy, and the history of warfare across multiple cultures. The greatest victory is the battle you never have to fight, she told them. Your weapons are tools of last resort. Your real power comes from making others believe that using force against you or anyone under your protection would be catastrophic for them. Deterrence through demonstrated capability, coupled with absolute restraint unless provoked. That is the model we have built, and it is the model you will carry forward. She looked at the mixed group of students, seeing hope in their varied faces. The galaxy called Earth peaceful. They were right. But they confused our choice for peace with an inability to wage war. Never make that mistake about anyone. True peace comes from mutual respect backed by the certain knowledge that aggression has consequences. Ambassador Chen, now elderly but still serving on the council, gave her final address before retirement. Earth did not ask to become the galaxy's guardian. That role was forced upon us by circumstances and poor decisions made by others. But we accepted it, and we have tried to wield that power responsibly. She looked around the chamber at faces that showed respect rather than fear. The measure of a civilization is not in what it can destroy, but in what it chooses to build. Earth chose to build a future where our children and yours can explore the stars together without fear, where disputes are settled with words rather than weapons, where strength serves peace rather than undermining it. We made mistakes along the way. We were too harsh sometimes, too lenient others, but we never stopped trying to live up to the values we claim to hold. That is all any civilization can do. As she stepped down from the podium for the last time, delegates from every species rose in respect. The human who had stood before them decades ago, dismissed and ignored, was now honored as one of the architects of galactic peace. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Earth was peaceful, but Earth was also prepared. And in that balance between capability and restraint, a new era had begun.